Kozambo, and welcome to Dawai Kudroen. My guest tonight is Honorable Member of National Assembly and also Member of Opposition Party, Mr. Kinga Tshering. So thank you so much for your time. Just to move on, we have been talking about the Geo budgets in our conversation towards the end. So maybe if you could continue from there. Now, same question if I were to repeat. GUPs tell us that there's so much of budget cut, budget slash, and they didn't get the ceiling that they have proposed to the government. And government just recently, Honorable Finance Minister was here on my show, and he clarified what is actually happening and what actually are the nuances of this whole budgeting process. So, what is the take of the opposition party on this?
Thank you, Dawa, for inviting me to your show and for giving us this opportunity to share our views as well as provide our input for benefit of public Shinuvela. As far as the Geok budget is concerned, I think everybody is aware from media as well as when you interact with the local governments. For various Dzongkhag Tsokduks, I think the same view that is being repeated again and again is that the budget has been slashed. And I think this is a reality that we have to acknowledge. Now, I cannot really talk about the other Dzongkhag, but if you look at in Thimphu Dzongkhag and if you pick one or two Geogs, what we see is that there seem to be big gap between the expectation as well as between the expectation and the actual money that is being released on the ground. For example, there is a Geog where the fund allocation as per the plan, 11th five-year plan which has been submitted, approved by GNH, is to be say 40 million for the 11th five-year plan. So which translates roughly into about 8 million per year.
Yes.
The reality is that Geog gets sanctioned a budget of only 3 million out of the 8 million.
Annually.
Right, correct.
Yes.
I'm talking about 2014 to 2015. So the sanctioned budget out of the expected 8 million is 3 million. Even within the 3 million, what we see is that 2 million is now the Geok Demong Fund, Geok Grant. So therefore, effectively, what is allocated for the regular plan work which has been submitted through the 11th five-year plan, through the local government plan is only about 1 million against the initial projected of about 8 million. And this is to be accurate. I think this is to do with, for example, Mewong Geok. It's a big Geok. So when you really look at that, we have to acknowledge the complaints that we are receiving from the Geok. I think there is some serious issue here. And the other reality when you look at it is what are the local government officials doing now? And quite often the feedback that we get is nothing, because there's simply no money which is coming down to the ground for activities to start. So therefore, I think this is something we need to look at it. And I think as far as the expectation is concerned, I did look up in the 11th five-year plan document and also the manifesto of the government of the day. So what has been actually pledged in the manifesto is that unlike the earlier plan documents, the empowerment of the local Geok is through the 2 million grant. And as a matter of fact, I think to be exact, what it says is that the 2 million grant will have, the Geogs will have full discretion to use the grant for development projects or any other related expense. So therefore, essentially it means that the GUPs should have full authority to actually use that money wherever they feel is necessary and urgent.
Are they not having full authority right now?
I'm not too sure about that, because again the feedback that we get is there are a lot of guidelines that you need to follow. First of all, there are guidelines. Second thing is that again essentially even though it is being projected as a separate fund, but on the other hand, when the overall allocation is being slashed and then 2 million is part of that, whatever slashed amount is there, then I think there is some sort of the expectation as well as the reality. I think that there is a big difference. And again, to go back to that, full flexibility, financial flexibility to the Geogs. The pretext is that for example, at that time, the Gyeok Center gets a mega sum of 50,000 budget. So which means in a way we are looking at now, against the 50,000 we have now 22 million, which is at the full discretion of the Gyeok, and currently that is not happening. I think that is the reality that we have. And again, there is, it further goes on to sort of say that this particular, the fund which will be for the empowerment is to, the Gyeoks will prioritize development and even change the activities based on the need. Now, are the Gyeoks able to do that even for the 2 million? So I think there is a lot of discrepancy on what the people and the local government officials have been made to understand, and the guidelines that they are being sort of imposed upon now. So I think this is something which I thought I'll just share. And because as a representative, for example, for our constituency here in Thimphu, these are feedbacks that we directly get from the Dzongkhat Soduk meetings, which are held regularly. In fact, the one in Thimphu was held just last month. So therefore, I feel that this is a recurring theme, recurring feedback that you are getting across the country, that look, there has been a lot of expectations on the empowerment of the Gyeok, the fund being given at the Gyeok level, because that is how you empower them. Without the financial authority, you can't really empower the local development activities. If that is the case, then why is not the fund coming down at the local level? I think government may justify that there is allocation at the center. And even that, I took a look at the 11 5-year plan document, and there it's indicated actually whatever fund is given to the Gyeok is under two categories. One will be under what they call the resource-based allocation based on a formula. And the other one is the Gyeok Demo money, which is at the full discretion of the Gyeoks. When you look at that allocation, the resource-based money is about 75% of the budget allocated to the local government. Only 25% is the budget allocated for something like the Gyeok Demo money. On the other hand, now when you look at some of these specific Gyeoks, the reality is that the money that is allocated to them is 2 million, which forms the majority portion of the budget which is released to them. So 2 million forms now all of a sudden 75%, which is supposed to be the discretion fund. On the other hand, the formula-based fund is only about 25%. So it's completely flip-flop in terms of the budget allocation as well. So first of all now, I mean, in discrepancy to the 11th 5-year plan budget allocation, we have a situation where the budget is now, allocation to the local government is slashed, sometimes by more than 50%, sometimes by more than 60-70%, based on some of these few cases. I mean, I have to be honest, and I have to admit that I haven't been able to look at all the Gyeoks, which again we have made our point during the assembly discussion. We wanted to set up a budget committee composed of the ruling members as well as the opposition members.
Yes.
But the Assembly Act says that actually there should not be any budget should not be referred to any committee. We wanted to change that, but since we didn't get the numbers, so we could not change that act. But hopefully from the next session we will, and I hope the government and the parliament will be accommodating, we would like to spend about more than 1 or 2 weeks just on the budget. Yes. We want to discuss it thoroughly. We want to slice it and dice it and make sure that whatever the intended plans, programs are there, it really trickles down at the Gyeok level. And I think the current feedback that you're getting from across all the Gyeoks, this is something we have to acknowledge,
Yes. Sir, now assuming that whatever technicalities and whatever information or details that you have shared to be true, government did have their own justifications, and it's for the viewers to judge which one is true. But assuming that whatever you said could be true, then what is going to happen next? Have you already apprised the government on this, or should you wait for the next session to happen so that you can pick up this during the session?
Well, I think what we could do is, since the feedback is already there from the Gyeoks, in my own constituency, I'm trying to interact with them more, and again, specific example. For example, construction of Lingjizong.
Yes.
One of the most important monuments right at the border point. It's a symbolic of our nation, and that is something which we have in the 11 5-year plan document. We have approved the plan. Budget allocation is about 90 million.
Yes.
On the other hand, now the allocation for this particular fiscal year is less than $1 million. So therefore, there are some, I think when it comes to budget issues, there are a lot of details we need to look at it. And as you mentioned, I think just now is not too late. But of course, we have to be realistic in the sense that this has already been, again, adopted by the Parliament. And at the same time, I think within the limited resource envelope that the government has, I'm not too sure how much we can do. But the thing is, we have to give the feedback even as of now. And during the winter session, I think there will be more feedbacks coming in. We need to apprise the government on what can be changed along the way. And then definitely from the next budget session for 2015 and 2016, as I mentioned earlier, we would like to request the government and the Parliament to make sure that we allocate more than a week just on the budget session.
Yes.
Because I think it's very important, because budget comprises the single most important agenda for any parliament. And I think this is something that we really need to deliberate and make sure that we slice it and dice it and make sure that the resource allocation is done very, very wisely.
So was it all because of the number game between the ruling and the opposition that you have all these important points and concerns shared later after everything has been passed?
Well, I think it's not that we do not share some of these concerns and voice these even before passing the particular agenda. But the reality is, I think the number game is very important. That is the procedure in the Parliament. And even when you raise your voice, the impact that you have, yes, depending on the issues, you might be able to catch the attention of the media, or you may be able to catch the attention of the public on some points. But on a lot of issues, I think when there are party positions and when there are more members with a certain party ruling government versus the opposition, then it's obviously we need to go along with the majority session anyway. But at the same time, I think on some of these issue-based agenda, we do have, for example, a lot of members also from the ruling party who are concerned about these specific issues which are of national importance. And at the same time, on other issues, we also have equally number of friends from the opposition side who may not necessarily agree with us as well. So therefore, I think this is one of the most important responsibilities as an MP. When you are there, you are serving the nation. It's the long-term interest of the nation that you have to put ahead of the interest of the party, put ahead of the interest of self-interest, and you every time I think you should have that long-term view on where the nation is heading. And I think this is something where we seriously want to suggest to the government that we need at least 1 or 2 weeks from the next summer session purely devoted in budget, so that we know that the most important resource allocation is done so that we can achieve the national goals.
Yes, sir. So to move on, now tax is another issue. There are people who feel that even opposition has not done enough, if not more. Opposition actually has failed on several issues. One is pay raise, another one tax. Now talking about tax, what was the opposition's stand clearly that would have actually ignited so much of debate and would have made your supporters and believers in your party feel that, okay, opposition has done something about this tax?
Well, on the tax, first of all, I think the whole rationale behind this current taxation, I think that is something which we need to understand as well. The other thing is, it's not that opposition didn't do enough even on the taxation issue. Overall, we supported the taxation proposal, mainly for the rationales. First of all is, tax is a tough decision, but at the same time is for the good of the nation. If it achieves the right objectives, for example, equitable distribution of wealth, and then as well as some targeted objectives like curbing the outflow of foreign exchange of money, and then curbing unnecessary expenditure, and I think some of these things, good rationale. At the same time, from opposition side, we made sure that the tax, indiscriminate taxation does not hurt the people whom actually we intend to help. So for example, in the vehicle tax issue, yes, for all the rationale, we support taxation on vehicle, especially the luxury vehicle, the heavy polluting vehicle, yes, taxes should be there. But at the same time, if you remember, in the assembly, we put our foot down on the taxation for especially the low income and then as well as for the rural vehicles. And this is one area, I think, even after the assembly session, the government has admitted and said they have made a mistake, because initially the rural vehicle, there has been an order issued from the Ministry of Finance saying that the rural vehicles also will be now taxed 45%, including sales tax and green tax and so on. But that is where we sort of really took it up with the government and said, hey, look, no, this is not the discussion we had in the parliament. In the parliament, we made sure that the rural vehicles should be exempted from tax, except for, whatever tax has been existing earlier.
Yes.
So therefore, I think it's not that we did not put our foot down on the taxation. We did that. And of course, here the taxation, as I said earlier, the rationale and objective has been debated extensively in the parliament also. But like most of the public, again, we are a little disappointed on the results that the taxation has achieved, because what has happened? Again, upon the recommendation of the Pay Commission, there were some recommendations where it says that taxation will be achieving its objective of curbing foreign exchange and Indian rupee outflow. That is, if there is no import of vehicle. Now the reality, what is happening is, because of the quota issue, again, quota is something which we deliberated at length. And there were some feedbacks on saying the civil servants may prefer that instead of quota, the recommendation of the Pay Commission is to give a lump sum amount to them in lieu of the quota. So therefore, everybody is happy, because now they're getting cash in hand. And for those people who are not able to afford to buy a car, at least that money can be used at their discretion. So therefore, that is a recommendation. But on the other hand, now we are again, the quota will be given to all the civil service. So now again, what we have is, as of date, there were pending quotas which is to be used is about 1,500. In the next 5 years, because of the promotion and so on, we are looking at another 1,500 quotas which needs to be issued. So we are looking at all of a sudden 3,000 import of third country cars, and that will translate into more than 5 billion outflow of INR and foreign exchange money. At the same time, our stand in the parliament has been that the tax has to be relaxed on the rural vehicles because of all the utility issues and so on. But now, from what we understand is now, is not only the rural vehicle, as far as utility vehicles are concerned, like for example Bolero, now these are indiscriminately applies even to the urban areas. So therefore, you'll have another 3,000 to 4,000 of Boleros and utility vehicles coming in the market. So therefore, the whole objective and rationale behind the taxation policy, specifically on the vehicle, is being defeated. So therefore, yes, there are reasons why the
and also we also have the honourable members of parliament who are going to be the beneficiary of this quota allotment.
Right, exactly. I think when I mentioned about the number of quotas which will be issued within the next 5 years, so that includes the quotas which are allocated for the MPs as well. So I think the taxation policy, good intention, good objective, but what is the end result?
Yes. So when Honourable Finance Minister was here, he was actually looking for support from general public, from the local leaders as well as media to promote the taxation policy. What about communication tax and tax on the fossil fuel?
Well, I think
opposition stand on this.
This again, you must already be aware of the discussion that we had in the parliament on the communication tax. The reality is in Bhutan of the facilities that we are able to actually spread throughout the nation in most of the remote areas is, one is the B mobile. And I think this is one facility which everybody in the village, they're able to use it. And from the mere usage of telephone numbers, I think, equal to the number of population in the nation. And the feedback we are getting, and again we have raised in the parliament, this is something where we feel that the people in Bhutan, most of people are spending a lot of money on the communication, so therefore we should be able to tax it. But on the other hand, if you compare it with the other countries, the mobile facility in terms of the tariff,
Yes.
ours is very high in the region. If you look at it, very high. So we still feel that we are not able to do enough to bring down the rates of the mobile. And those are some of the reasons why the IT sector is not really able to take off in Bhutan. Why the BPO centers are not taking off, while the knowledge processing centers are not taking off. It's not because we don't have people who are not able to provide those services. It's because some of the basic infrastructure, like the telecommunication rates, is very expensive compared to other regions in the world. So therefore, again, the rationale behind imposing an additional 5% on the mobile communication, I think that's something which sort of is very difficult to fathom. And similarly, I think you brought up the fuel issue. Yes, fuel, I think the data says that we have about 7 billion import INR worth of fuel import into Bhutan on an annual basis, which is a huge amount of money. So therefore, let's tax on the fuel. And I think that's also one of the reasons on why the taxation on the vehicle has been there. On the other hand, when you look at it now, where is the fuel usage actually happening? If you look at just the number of passenger cars that we are driving, by rough calculation on the back of the envelope, I don't think it's going to be more than 1.5 billion per annum. So therefore, you're looking at another 4.5 billion usage of fuel where it is happening. So yes. I think first thing is for us to determine how the fuel is being used, and there are some views on the possibility that the fuel is again redirected across the border. Yes. And if that is the case, then I think we need to tackle the problem there, but not sort of have an indiscriminate taxation policy of 5% on the fuel, because that is going to raise the cost on the basic consumer goods. Because the reality is, I think majority of our population, whether they're in the remote areas, whether they're in the urban areas, the fact is that we are located far away from most of the products.
Yes.
So therefore, transportation is a huge cost to any product that we are consuming here. So 5% fuel tax is going to indiscriminately raise the taxes on all the basic consumer product that every Bhutanese has to consume. So therefore, again here, are we raising the tax and indiscriminately hurting those sections of the society and people whom we are actually supposed to help?
Yes, so I think this, I'm sure these are not the support that Honorable Finance Minister would be looking for. Now, one issue that people raise on the tax of fossil fuel is that why should the government tax when we are receiving fossil fuel as subsidy? But Honorable Finance Minister clearly mentioned that we do not receive subsidy, we do not get subsidy on petrol and diesel. Did you do some research on this? Any findings on this?
To be very honest, I do not have the exact figures on the subsidy component. But my own take on that is, for example, where do we get our fuel? From India. And the fact is that India spends more than 80,000, I think in their count, 80,000 crores or maybe 100,000 crores of equivalent Indian rupees on fuel subsidy within their own country. So therefore, the fuel that we are getting imported from India is further, even if it's not further subsidized, it is subsidized through the supply from because of the help that we are getting from India. So therefore, I feel that number one, that the fuel that we are importing in Bhutan is subsidized, if not directly from our budgetary support, it is subsidized from Government of India, number one.
Yes, yes.
And number two is, again, some of the rationales and arguments that the fuel that we are importing into Bhutan, 7 billion, maybe half of that is going back across the border, back to India. So therefore, I think there are these ground realities and arguments which fully support that fuel is definitely subsidized.
Yes, sir. So finally, a general question. Now, on all these issues, opposition did have your own stand during the deliberations. But there are again some people who feel that opposition has not done enough. Now, can people expect more? Or would you believe that the expectations of the people are too tall so that you cannot live up to it?
Well, I think we do get a lot of mixed feedbacks from a lot of from the public and then from our friends as well. There are some of the view that opposition is doing a good job, and which is very relevant, making our stand, informing the public, taking up a position on the issues. Yet there are others who say that in the previous government, 2 opposition members were even, even more relevant, and they were even more aggressive than 15 oppositions right now. I mean, we do get all these views, but as far as we are concerned, I think what we need to be aware is, yes, we need to meet the expectations of the people, but is it the extreme expectation that we are looking at? Definitely not. Ultimately, I think opposition has a very, very important part to play. We have a very important role to play constitutionally, meeting the aspiration of the people, ensuring that whatever decision we take, whatever feedback we give is for the long-term interest of the nation. So therefore, I think in the future, our request is please expect what is necessary, what is relevant. We want to be a relevant opposition. We want to take up issues where it's relevant. But at the same time, I think it is a little bit difficult for us to sort of pander to every view, especially of the extreme views. So therefore, we want to make sure that we are a mature opposition, and we would like to support the government where it is due, and at the same time take up and oppose the government where we feel that the long-term interest of the nation is at stake.
So thank you so much. I do have some follow-up questions, but I'll reserve it for some of your colleagues who on a later date we can invite for the show. Thank you so much for your time, sir. With this, we come to the end of Dawai Kudroen. Thank you so much for watching, and good night.